Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today marks the start of a super exciting YouTube series. I've been asked to record this series for a very long time. So, without further ado, I'm going to teach you how to decorate a Geometry Dash level. And I think the real value here is I'm going to teach you from somebody who started with zero experience not that long ago. I'm going to teach you all the basics and even some advanced tricks on how to take your Geometry Dash creations to the next level. So we'll go ahead and get started with episode 1. For episode 1 in the series, we're going to talk about probably one of the most important, if not the most important thing when it comes to decorating the level in Geometry Dash, and that thing is color. So my thoughts on color: if you have a level, it's got some really good gameplay, but your colors don't work. Let's say your colors, they don't go together and they clash, or your shades are off, you're too saturated. You can pretty much take your level and throw it in the trash because no one's going to want to look at it. But if you've got a level that's got decent gameplay, maybe not the best, but it's got decent gameplay, but the colors are outstanding, people are going to say, wow, this level doesn't look half bad. The colors are great. Because colors are one of the most prominent things that people notice when they look at your level. So I know I said we're going to get into the basics, but I want to kind of explain how to choose good colors for your level. So we're going to dive into a little bit of color theory here. So with color theory, we've got a couple basic concepts with color theory that kind of help you choose good color for your level. And it's really based on like a lot of studies and science that people have done to understand what colors go together. So the first thing we're going to talk about is color wheel. So I'm sure all of you guys know the 3 primary colors are yellow, blue, and red, right? So then we'll dive a little bit deeper, go into secondary colors. Secondary colors are the colors that you get by combining all the primary colors. So you combine red and yellow, you get orange. You combine blue and yellow, you get green. Red and blue, you get purple. All right, those are the primary colors. There are 6 colors on the secondary color wheel. All right, so now we're going to take that even a step further, go to tertiary colors. So tertiary colors are a lot more specific than the primary colors and even the secondary colors. So those are by combining both primary and secondary colors, and you know that comes out with all kinds of different shades of these colors, and this is where you can really start to get creative with your colors. I'll post some links down below for what I'm using for reference material on this. So like I said, tertiary color wheel is what we're going to use to base a lot of this stuff off. So for choosing colors, one topic that I want to go into is color harmony. So there are a couple formulas for color harmony, and like I said, this is all based on like science and research and stuff, so this isn't something I just made up. So for example, analogous colors, which I know analogous is a big word, I know I got a small brain, big word for me. So analogous colors are colors on the tertiary color wheel that are right next to each other. So for example, green, yellow, green, and green, that forms an analogous color scheme. And that works. Like, it looks good, and you can even find it in nature. It goes really well together. And you can do that for any color. So if you want to do red, orange, and orange red, or red orange, whatever you want to call it, that's another analogous color scheme. So then the second kind of color scheme we've got here is based on complementary colors. So you can take any color on the tertiary color wheel and find the color directly across from it. So when I mean directly across from it, you legitimately have to have the color wheel in front of you so you can look and pair up these things. So I've got an example here of green is directly across from purple. So green and purple are complementary colors, and then you can kind of use hue variants, which we'll talk about a little later in the editor here, hue variants of those colors. So then the third color scheme here is a color scheme found in nature. So these are a little bit harder to explain, but pretty much you just go look at some pretty photos of the Amazon rainforest or something, or of wild animals, and you'll kind of understand what nature color schemes are. So in this example, I'm gonna say a plant You can kind of observe the colors here. So what I'm looking at is we've got a red plant surrounded by green leaves, and the green leaves, some of them are wilted, so they're yellow, right? So that color combination is red, green, and yellow. A bunch of different shades of green and a couple shades of yellow. So you got like 5 or 6 colors there. You got 3 colors that are different from each other, but they work. It's, like I said, it's really hard to explain the nature-based color scheme, but if you want something cool, go like I said, go look at some really nice pictures of nature, and you'll find different color schemes on animals, a lot of plants, just stuff like that if you needed inspiration, aside from the first 2 methods I talked about. So those 3 are really like the basics for trying to choose color palettes. Now there's a lot more color schemes you can do, but I'll just stick with the basic 3. So I'll just kind of reiterate: analogous color schemes, complementary color schemes, and then nature-based color schemes. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the editor, and then I'm going to kind of show you how to find your colors in the Geometry Dash editor and kind of work with them and adjust them to your liking. Alright, so what I'm going to show you in the Geometry Dash editor are some of the tools that I use to edit my colors and kind of fine-tune them to find the best colors that fit my creation. So we're going to start off by color swatching. Color swatching is something I always do to really find the right color and just get a good picture of that color I'm working with. So for a color swatch, on the first tab, second page, I have all the buttons enabled. So it's on the second page for me. It's just the white block with no borders. I'm gonna go ahead and place that down. I use these for all my color swatches. It's just super easy to see the color I'm working with. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select the color. I'm going to click this button here. It's the red, green, and blue dots on the right hand side. It's gonna pull up the color selector slider, or the value adjuster slider. I don't know what you want to call it. Anyway, so these 4 sliders allow you to really customize the color that you're working with. So you can see here, we got 4 sliders. I'll start from the left. So the first one is hue, and hue is the main color, right? So it's either red, blue, green, yellow, all those things. So let's go ahead and select the hue. I'm gonna start with red. Red's pretty easy. I'm gonna give it a little bit more pink, kind of take it down right there at like 95%. So then we got the next slider. The next slider is saturation. So as a noob creator in Geometry Dash, the first thing I wanted to do when I was selecting my colors was take this saturation slider and max it out to 100. I'm gonna have to stop you right there. Don't do that. All right. One of the main things that I've learned is if you max out your saturation slider, you're gonna have a bad time. So usually where I want to start is about 75%. That 75%, that minus 25% on the saturation, just a lot more appealing to the eye. Now, there are some instances, I repeat, there are some instances when having maxed out saturation works and is needed in your level, but most of the time, do not use maxed out saturation. So I'm gonna work with usually about 75% here. If you take this all the way down to 0, no matter what your hue is, you're gonna get a white color. About 50% is usually where I draw the line. I try and keep it between like 60 and 80% most of the time if I'm looking for like a main color in my level. So I'll go ahead and do like I think that's like 75 or so. That looks all right. Maybe crank it up just a hair. The next slider we've got is brightness. In like the saturation slider, if you go all the way down with this one, no matter what your hue is, you're gonna get a black. For this one, it's okay to have it 100%, but I think for this color, I'm gonna go like at a 95, just get a little bit darker of a color. But like I said, this is a brightness slider, and the farther down you go with this, the darker your color will be. And then on the far right side, we've got opacity. Opacity, if you slide this all the way down, your color becomes invisible. So not really a point in having 0 opacity. Having this is at 100% is also fine. For this color, I'm going to leave it at 100%. But like when you would use this not at 100% is if you want to just have like an overlay over your whole screen or over your block design, you can just have like a shade. So in this tutorial, I'm going to have 100% opacity. So left from right, hue, saturation, brightness, and opacity. And so if you want to do more colors, just do more color swatches, and then for your other colors, you can just make variants. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this color, I'm going to go ahead and apply it to some blocks. So I'm going to take this block right here for now. I'm just going to make a square of them like that. And so they've all got that color 1 now, so that's fine. That looks good. The color's not too bright, it's enough red, works perfect. So the next trick I'm going to teach you how to do is each object can have an individual variation of the base color. So what I mean by that, what we're going to do is I'm going to select this block, I'm going to copy it with Control D, and I'm going to shrink it down to 50, so we have a small block in the middle of the large block. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take both of these corners, and I'm going to hit Edit Object, and then up here at the top, inside the detail is going to be the color of this block. I'm going to select this HSV. So this allows me to individually edit the hue, saturation, value of each individual block. So I use the same red base color, but if I want to have just one block in my design just stand out a little bit more than the rest, or blend in a little more than the rest, adjust the detail, hue, saturation, and value individually. So for these blocks, I'm just going to do a -5 hue, and then I'm going to do a 20% increase in saturation. So I will explain. Like I said, up the top you got a hue slider. You can go -180, +180. Just did that backwards. So we're going to do a -5 for this one. And this, we have 2 options. We can either increase the saturation by 100%, decrease it, or pretty much have no saturation, or if you check this checkbox, you can add a flat value to the saturation. So this, doing it like this, gives you a stronger change, or a bigger change in the saturation value. Same goes for brightness too. So if I can just add straight up a ton of saturation to this object, or I can times by 20. So like I said, adding an additional 20% saturation is going to be a lot less of a change than adding a straight 20 points to the saturation. So I'm just going to go ahead and do flat 20% to the saturation. I'm not going to adjust the brightness at all, but same concept for brightness as saturation before. I can increase it by 100%, or I can add flat 100 points, take away flat 100 points. So no change to the brightness on this one. Okay, so that's that. And then we have those 2 corners. They look slightly different. They still work together, but they add a little bit of variance. So let's go ahead and select these 2 corners. I'm going to do a similar thing. Go to Detail, hit HSV. I'm going to add 5 hue to this one, and I'm going to increase the saturation by 20%. And I hit OK. So now, it's kind of hard to see. I'll zoom in a little bit, but it adds just enough variance there. You've got the outer red, and then the inner blocks are the same base color, but the hue and saturation just very slightly gives it a good mixture of color, not being like too basic, but it still fits. And like I said, color, you just have to adjust it and play with it until it looks right to you. So yeah, that's pretty much it for colors, really. Like I said, color is a theme that'll play out through this whole series. Color is used in pretty much everything from block design to effects. So in pretty much every tutorial that I go and do in the future, color will have a small part in that. I just wanted to cover the basics of color first, and how you choose your color palette, and some tools in the editor that allow you to maximize your colors and give you the best use of your color. And now our special guest Slay is going to give you some tips on how you can take your colors to the next level.
Hey guys, I'm Slay. I'm a creator, and this is a recording I'm doing for AR Woolies video where I'm going to be showing you guys the process I go through when I choose my colors and how to get nice looking, appealing color combos. My first recommendation would be make the ground black, because in most design levels you've got a darker sort of theme. It's not very bright. Well, it can be bright, but it's also like design wise quite dark compared to a lot of other styles. So I'd make the ground black. Then for a design level, I'm just gonna, this isn't really related, but I'm gonna just choose a good looking design background. This isn't really what I'm meant to be saying, but for a design level, these three backgrounds tend to work really well, so I'd recommend one of those. But anyway, for a background color, choose the main color you want to make the level be, like the first color, and this is where the color theory sort of comes in. You want to choose a color on this wheel that you think would work well for a full level and that would fit nicely. So I'm going to do a deep blue. I'd recommend staying on the cooler side for the background. I wouldn't really go further than here for it, or further than like here. I think further than that and it can get into the reds and stuff. That can be nice for pulsing, but for the main color, I'd recommend keeping it in the cooler area. I'm going to make mine deep blue and put the circle. It looks very dark here, but you'll see how we'll brighten this up and make it look nicer later. For color 1, I'd just recommend making a blending version of the background color. Just, if you didn't see what I did there, I opened the color thing, copy color, blending, click this plus and click background. That's all you need to do for color 1. For color 2, I make it black. For color 3, I make it invisible. And the reason I do this and don't make it white like a lot of creators is white isn't often or really ever needed in design. And I know this is a very controversial point, but white can clash a bit too much in design, so I'd recommend not using it too much. So the main white color I have here is just invisible. But what you would do to color a design level is you would add black behind this so that it doesn't stand out too much. Well, not so it doesn't stand out too much, but actually so that any background detail you do doesn't clip. So if I say had a background that used a lot of glow, without this it would clip weirdly and it would like show through the block. But as you can see, I'm going to make a laser here. It won't show. So that's just a quick tip actually. To actually add like color variation into your design. For example, you would have this, you'd use this as a base, this blending background, and then you would adjust the hue and stuff to do the main coloring. For example, if you want a very vibrant sort of level, you might do something like this, where you've got, yeah, that. I'd actually use a bit less than that, but that's just me personally. And if you had a very mellow, chilled out, like if this was like a fast, flashy, bright level, this is what you would probably see, like very high hue difference sort of design. Pulses with the BG going really bright into different colors, as you can see, and that's what you'd normally see there. Now I'm going to go into the more complex stuff. This isn't necessarily needed, but this can really help bring out something in your design. Get a color and choose a color that clashes or contrasts with the main color you're doing, and make it bright like this. Say this is my design. It's very simple, and that's fine, but the way you could make this instantly stand out and look original, add some interesting colors into it. A way you could do that is add some of these, for example. Use the color that you have that's contrasting and implement it in a way so that it, you know, stands out. A good way of doing this is using the contrasting colors that you added and blending them with blending glow over them, that is the background blending glow, into the design so that they like smoothly transition. And that's one of the best ways you can make good looking design. I wanted to prepare a design for this tutorial just so that I could show an example of what I mean. This should be it. Yeah. In these designs, I've used probably about 7 separate colors. I haven't seven like accenting colors and the detail. The way I did that was actually with this. In this design, color 2 is the like contrasty one, okay? No, color 5, sorry. And the way I've done this is I've given the objects that I want to stand out the color, this color, which is blending. You can make it blending or not, but I'd recommend having a version for both. What I did is I actually made that, like selected those and made them that color, and then I adjusted the hue value, which you can do here, of the object. And I've adjusted that in into different colors from that, added glow over them, and it makes quite a lively, dynamic looking part. It looks quite, it stands out, you know, it appeals, and that's the main reason you'd add contrast to a thing. This isn't necessary, and this would look fine if it was all, you know, background color with hue changing, but it's just an extra thing you can do to really bring out the colors in your design.
Alright, so that pretty much concludes our episode on color. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, color is one of the most important aspects of creating levels in Geometry Dash. They can either make or break your level, and throughout the rest of the series, I will continue to talk about color because it is that important. It's used in every aspect of creating a level, from block design to your effects and your backgrounds. So this is not the end of color. There'll be more in-depth information on color as we continue, but I just wanted to get through some of the basics with color and how to go about choosing your colors and use the tools that the Geometry Dash editor gives creators. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video. It allows me to keep creating content like this, and I really do hope you learned something. If you're a beginner, this is a great place for you to start. Just get your feet wet with Deco, and if you're already got some decorating skill under your belt, maybe I taught you a little something scientific about color theory and that kind of thing. So, like I said, hope you enjoyed the video. This is AR Wooly signing off.